September 1967. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio. The autumn sun cuts low across the tarmac, casting long shadows behind a restored P-47M Thunderbolt. The aircraft sits there like a monument to a war that ended more than 2 decades ago, its silver skin gleaming, its propeller blades frozen mid-rotation. Around it, families wander through the air show, children pointing at the massive radial engine, fathers explaining what it meant to build machines like this when the world was burning. But one man stands apart from the crowd. Bobby Thatcher, 50 years old now, though he looks older. Gray hair, work-worn hands, eyes that have seen things most men only read about in history books. He stares at the Thunderbolt like he's seeing a ghost. His hands shake slightly at his sides. He doesn't notice the people moving past him, doesn't hear the announcer's voice crackling over the speakers, doesn't register anything except that airplane and the memories it carries. And then across the tarmac, he sees another man. Older, maybe mid-50s, with that particular kind of bearing that military service leaves on a person decades after the uniform comes off. The man is staring at the same airplane. His face, weathered and lined, carries an expression Bobby recognizes because he feels it himself. Longing, regret, respect, something deeper than nostalgia. Their eyes meet across 50 yards of concrete. Recognition flashes between them like electricity. Bobby's breath catches. The other man's shoulders stiffen. For a moment, neither moves. The air show continues around them, oblivious to this silent conversation happening in looks alone. Bobby Thatcher's voice comes now, not speaking to anyone present, but to you, as if he's sitting across from you at a kitchen table, telling you something he's carried for 23 years. What if I told you the fastest fighter ever built never fired a shot in anger? What if I told you it flew at 505 miles per hour when every other airplane in the sky was struggling to break 450? And what if I told you that its greatest victory wasn't a kill, wasn't a mission, wasn't even a battle, but the fact that it existed at all? The scene shifts now, pulls back in time. Summer of 1944. Split screen in your mind. On the left, Bobby Thatcher Younger, 27 years old, sitting in a cockpit unlike anything the world has seen. The XP-47J, the Superbolt. His hand wraps around the throttle palm, sweating, heart hammering. The instrument panel vibrates with barely contained power. 2,800 horsepower, waiting for his command. On the right, Germany. Wilhelm Hartmann, 31 years old, Luftwaffe. Major 47 victories, dropping his Focke-Wulf WWII into a dive toward a formation of American bombers. Tracers arc through the air. The sky is full of metal and smoke and death. Bobby's voice continues. In the summer of 1944, we were building a monster. An airplane so fast, so powerful, it would make every fighter in the sky obsolete. We didn't just want to match the enemy. We wanted to bury them. We wanted to build something so terrifying that seeing it would be enough. The image shifts to Bobby in that cockpit, pushing the throttle forward. The engine roar becomes a physical thing, a force that shakes your chest. The airspeed needle climbs. 480, 490, 500, 505. I saw the needle pass 505. I saw it with my own eyes. The fastest piston fighter ever built. Now to Willie's perspective. His squadron, overwhelmed, outnumbered, watching yet another wave of American fighters pour into German airspace like an endless silver flood. They don't need better pilots. They have infinity. Back to 1967. The two men, Bobby and Willie, still locked in that moment of recognition across the tarmac. Bobby takes a step forward, then another. The German man does the same. They meet in the middle, standing before the P-47M like supplicants before an altar. Bobby speaks first, his voice rough. Willie. The other man's eyes widen. His accent carries the weight of 2 decades trying to perfect English, but it's still there underneath. I wondered if you would be here, Bobby. The frame freezes. These two men facing each other, the airplane between them. The question hangs in the air, unasked, but understood by everyone watching. How do they know each other? What connects them? And why does this moment feel like the resolution of something that started when they were both much younger? To understand how this moment was possible, Bobby's voice says you have to go back to 1943, to a coal town in Pennsylvania, and to the day everything changed. The world dissolves. New scene, 1938. Scranton, Pennsylvania. A county fair on a summer afternoon. The smell of corn dogs and cotton candy, the tinny sound of carnival music, the laughter of children. Two boys stand at the edge of a field, their necks craned back, watching a biplane loop and roll against a cloudless sky. Bobby Thatcher, 11 years old, skinny, with dirt under his fingernails and wonder in his eyes. Next to him, his older brother Frank, 15, taller, confident, in that way teenage boys are when they've decided who they want to become. The barnstormer brings the biplane down in a perfect landing, the wheels kissing the grass with barely a bounce. The boys run toward it, but their father's voice stops them cold. Bobby, Frank, get back here. Their father is a coal miner. You can see it in his hands. Black lines of dust permanently etched into the creases of his palms, and his shoulders bent from years of working in spaces too small for a man to stand upright. He looks at his sons with love and something else. Resignation. Boys like us don't become pilots. We go into the mines. That's how it is. That's how it's always been. Frank looks at his father for a longer moment. Then he looks at Bobby. Then we'll prove him wrong. You and me. Bobby, still staring at the airplane, barely hears. The pilot is climbing out of the cockpit, leather jacket, goggles pushed up on his forehead, grinning at the small crowd gathering around. Bobby has never wanted anything more in his life than to be that man in that airplane touching the sky. Frank reaches into his pocket, pulls out a few coins, pennies and nickels saved from odd jobs. He walks over to a vendor and comes back with 2 bottles of Coca-Cola, the glass ice cold and sweating in the summer heat. He hands one to Bobby. Promise me we'll fly someday, Bobby whispers. Frank taps his bottle against Bobby's. I promise, little brother. The scene shifts. The tone changes. A pattern interrupt, as they call it. From America to Germany. From sunlit optimism to something more complicated. Munich, 1936. A clockmaker's shop tucked into a narrow street, the kind of place where time itself seems to slow down. The walls are lined with cuckoo clocks, pocket watches, grandfather clocks, all ticking out of sync, creating a symphony of mechanical heartbeats. At a workbench near the window sits Wilhelm Hartmann, 20 years old, his hands moving with surgical precision over a watch movement. His father, older graying, leans over his shoulder. Precision isn't just craft, Wilhelm. It's respect for what you build. Every gear, every spring, every tiny piece matters. You leave one thing loose, one thing misaligned, and the whole mechanism fails. Willie nods, makes an adjustment with a jeweler's screwdriver. The watch ticks to life, perfect, rhythmic. His father smiles. Good. Very good. I want to build something that matters, fodder. Something bigger than watches. The door to the shop opens. A man enters, not a customer. Luftwaffe recruiter, though he's not in uniform, he looks around the shop at the precision instruments, at the young man with steady hands at the workbench. Germany needs men who understand machines, he says. Men who can make things work under pressure. Men like you. Willie looks at his father. His father looks at the recruiter. No one speaks for a moment. The clocks tick. History is about to turn. The scene dissolves again. Forward to 1942, Republic Aviation Factory, Farmingdale, New York. The massive facility hums with purpose. Assembly lines stretch as far as you can see. Women and men in work clothes, safety goggles moving with choreographed efficiency. P-47 Thunderbolts in various stages of completion fill the floor like silver beetles waiting to molt. Bobby Thatcher, 25 years old now, stronger calloused, stands at his station riveting wing panels. The pneumatic rivet gun bucks in his hands. Every rivet has to be perfect. He learned that from watching his own work come back marked with red inspection tags. Learned that perfect matters when men's lives depend on it. In his pocket, folded carefully, a letters from Frank. His brother made it, enlisted in the Army Air Forces, flew through training, got his wings. Now he's somewhere over Europe flying the very airplanes Bobby builds. One letter Bobby has memorized. He doesn't need to take it out to remember the words. Bobby, you're building the toughest bird in the sky. This jug saved my life twice already. She can take stupid amounts of punishment. 850s put out a wall of lead. The Krauts respect the Thunderbolt. Keep building them, little brother. Every rivet you set might be the one that brings me home. Bobby's supervisor, an older man who lost a son at Pearl Harbor, walks past. Thatcher, you work those rivets like you're building for your own brother. Bobby doesn't look up from his work. I am, sir. The supervisor nods, moves on. Bobby sets another rivet. Perfect, another, perfect. The rhythm becomes meditation. Each one might be the one, each one might matter, each one might be the difference. But Bobby doesn't know that his brother's luck is about to run out. November 8th, 1943. The scene splits again. Two places an ocean apart the same moment. Republic Aviation Factory floor. Early afternoon. A Western Union messenger walks through the main entrance, past security, looking at a piece of paper in his hand with an address. He asks directions. Someone points to the wing assembly area. To Bobby's station. Bobby is mid-rivet when he sees the messenger approaching. The whole factory floor knows what a Western Union messenger means. Work doesn't stop, but everyone nearby goes quiet. The pneumatic tools still hiss and bang, but there's a pocket of silence around Bobby's station that shouldn't exist in a place this loud. The messenger, barely 18 himself, hands Bobby the telegram. "I'm sorry, son." Bobby sets down the rivet gun. His hands are shaking. He opens the envelope. The words swim on the page. "We regret to inform you. First Lieutenant Frank Thatcher, killed in action over Germany, November 8th, 1943. Bobby's knees go weak. He sits down on the factory floor, still holding the telegram, still in his work clothes, still surrounded by the wings of P-47 Thunderbolts. This one was his. He died in one of these. His supervisor finds him 10 minutes later, still sitting there. Thatcher Bobby looks up, eyes red but dry. This one was his. He died in one of these. The supervisor doesn't know what to say. There's nothing to say. He puts a hand on Bobby's shoulder. "Take the rest of the day. Take tomorrow. Come back when you are ready." Bobby stands, folds the telegram, puts it in his pocket next to Frank's letters, picks up the rivet gun. "I'm ready now. What, my brother died so other people's brothers could live. I'm not stopping. I'm going to make them better. Fast enough to end this war." The scene shifts. Same moment, different place. Over Wilhelmshaven, Germany. Willie Hartmann, 30 years old Luftwaffe major, 47 confirmed victories, leads his swarm into an intercept of an American bomber formation. The sky is chaos. B-17s in tight formation, their 50s creating overlapping fields of fire. P-47s swarming like angry hornets, engaging the German fighters before they can reach the bombers. Willie's squadron is outnumbered 3-1. They always are now. Willie picks a target, a P-47 that's broken slightly from the main group chasing one of Willie's wingmen. Willie rolls his FW-190, dives, gets angles. The American pilot is good but young, makes a mistake. Tries to outclimb when he should have dived. Willie fires. Tracers walk up the Thunderbolt's fuselage. Smoke pours from the engine. The propeller stops. Willie watches, waiting for the pilot to bail out. Good pilots always bail out. No shame in it. Live to fight another day. But this pilot doesn't. The P-47 spirals, trailing black smoke going down. Shade. Pity. Willie's wingman confirms the kill over the radio. Willie logs it in his mind. 48. But there's no celebration. There used to be. Early in the war, every victory meant champagne, meant backslaps, meant proof that German fighters could compete. Not anymore. Now every victory just means there's one less German pilot to face tomorrow's Americans. Back at base debriefing, a young pilot, maybe 22, fresh from training, with barely 30 hours of flight time, is excited. "Herr Major, the American Thunderbolt. It's a tank with wings. We're seeing more every month." Willie lights a cigarette, his hands steady despite the adrenaline still in his system. "Then we'll shoot down more." The young pilot grins. "Yes, sir. We'll shoot down more. Or they'll overwhelm us. Their factories never stop. Ours will." Willie doesn't finish the sentence. Doesn't need to. Everyone in the room knows the math. America has 100 factories building 1,000 airplanes. Germany has 10 factories being bombed every night. It's not a question of skill anymore. It's arithmetic. That night, Willie sits alone in his quarters, writing a letter he'll never send. To whom he doesn't know. Maybe to himself, maybe to God, maybe to the American pilot who didn't bail out, whose name he'll never know. "I am a professional. I fight with honor, but I am beginning to understand that honor won't be enough. We're not warriors anymore. We're buying time with our lives for something that might not be worth the quantum." He folds the letter, puts it in a drawer with a dozen others just like it. The scene shifts forward. March 1944. Republic Aviation. A notice goes up on the bulletin board near the break room. The crowd around it is three deep. Bobby pushes through, reads over someone's shoulder. Special project, test pilot assistant needed. Experience preferred but not required. Must have mechanical knowledge. Must understand P-47 systems. Bobby stares at the notice. He's been taking flying lessons. Started in December, right after Frank's funeral. Using Frank's life insurance money, which felt wrong at first, but then felt like the only right thing to do. Frank wanted them to fly. Frank promised they'd fly. So Bobby learned. By February, he had his private pilot's license. Nothing fancy, single-engine land, barely 100 hours. But he had it, and he understood P-47 systems better than most pilots because he built them. Every rivet, every seam, every wire. His supervisor finds him staring at the notice. You thinking about it? Thatcher. Bobby doesn't answer immediately. Thinking about his hands on an airplane's controls instead of a rivet gun. Thinking about Frank's promise. Thinking about making these machines better from the inside instead of the outside. I don't have enough hours. But you have something else. You know what you're building. Most pilots, they just fly the airplane. They don't understand why every rivet has to be perfect, why every bolt has to be torqued. Exactly right. You do. Bobby looks at his supervisor. You think I have a chance? I think your brother would want you to try. The interview happens 2 days later. Bobby sits across a desk from the chief test pilot, a captain named Jake Morrison, combat veteran, 20 missions over Europe, shot down, once evaded capture, made it back. The kind of man who's seen both sides of what these airplanes can do. Morrison looks at Bobby's application. Factory worker, private pilot's license. He looks up. Your brother flew P-47s. Yes, sir. Died in one. Morrison nods slowly. Then you know what we're building. You know why it matters. Bobby meets his eyes. More than anything, sir. This isn't a regular P-47. This is special. Experimental. We're pushing the boundaries of what a piston fighter can do. It's dangerous. Hell, it might kill whoever flies it. I understand. Do you? Morrison leans forward. Because I need to know you're not here because of revenge or guilt or because you're trying to make up for something. This airplane needs clear heads. Bobby thinks about this for a long moment. When he speaks, his voice is steady. My brother died so other pilots could live. Every airplane we build, every improvement we make, that's more pilots who go home. More brothers who make it back. That's what I'm here for. To finish what Frank started. Morrison studies him, then extends his hand. Welcome to the XP-47J program, Thatcher. We start Monday. Bobby shakes his hand. The grip is firm, professional, but Bobby's heart is hammering. He's in. He's going to fly. Frank's promise is about to come true, even if Frank can't be here to see it. The scene shifts one more time. Bobby's first day, the hangar at Republic's flight test facility. And there it is, the XP-47J Superbolt. She doesn't look that different from a standard P-47 at first glance. Same basic shape, same blunt nose, same big paddle blade propeller. But the details, the cowling is tighter, more streamlined. There's a chin scoop under the nose that looks aggressive, predatory. The whole airplane has a coiled quality like a spring compressed to its limit, waiting to be released. Morrison walks Bobby around it, explaining each modification. The R280057C engine, standard rated at 2100 horsepower, but push the war emergency power and she'll give you 2800. That's not a tweak, Thatcher. That's a completely different animal. They stop at the engine cowling. See this tight fitting? Stock P-47 just lets air flow over the radial cylinders, cools them direct. Simple but not efficient at high speed. This bird has an intake fan and that chin scoop. Keeps the engine alive when we're pushing limits that would cook a standard jug. Bobby runs his hand along the metal, feeling the rivets he recognizes from the factory floor. How fast? Morrison grins. That's what we're here to find out. Goal is 500 miles per hour. No piston fighter has ever officially broken that. Bobby's hand stops on a rivet. 500, maybe more. If the engine holds, if the airframe holds, if the pilot holds. Bobby looks up at the airplane, this monster of American engineering and ambition. She's lighter than a stock P-47 by 1,000 pounds. 6 guns instead of 8. No external ordnance, no drop tanks. Every ounce of weight that doesn't contribute to speed has been stripped away. When do I fly her? Morrison laughs. You don't. Not yet. You're assistant test pilot. You ride along in a chase plane, take notes, learn the systems. Maybe in 6 months, if you're good, you get to touch the controls. But Morrison is wrong. Because history has other plans. Because in 6 weeks, Morrison will crash during a training flight in a different airplane. Nothing to do with the Superbolt. Just bad luck, bad weather, bad timing. He'll survive, but he'll be hospitalized for months. And when that happens, Bobby Thatcher, factory worker turned pilot, will climb into the XP-47J's cockpit as the primary test pilot. The fastest airplane in the world. The weapon that will win by never fighting. The machine that will bring enemies together decades after the war ends. But Bobby doesn't know any of that yet. Right now, he's just a kid from coal country standing in front of an airplane that represents everything his brother dreamed about. Everything America is capable of when it decides to build something better than anyone else. Right now, he's just thinking about Frank, about promises, about making every rivet count. The scene fades. Bobby's voice returns, older, weathered, speaking from 1967. I thought I understood what we were building. I thought I knew what the Superbolt meant. But I didn't. Not yet. Because across the ocean, there was a German pilot who was about to teach me something about mercy, about honor, about what it means to win. His name was Wilhelm Hartmann, and he shot down my brother. April 1944. The war is changing shape. On the factory floor at Republic Aviation, Bobby Thatcher learns the systems of the XP-47J like a priest learning scripture. Every morning before dawn, he's in the hangar, walking around the aircraft, touching panels, memorizing every access point, every system, every detail that might matter when you're 20,000 feet up and something goes wrong. Morrison takes him up in a chase plane twice a week. They follow the Superbolt through test flights. Morrison handling the radio communication, Bobby in the back seat with a clipboard and stopwatch timing maneuvers, recording speeds, noting any anomaly no matter how small. A slight vibration at 400 miles per hour, a temperature gauge that climbs faster than predicted. The way the aircraft responds when Morrison pushes the throttle to war emergency power and 2,800 horses wake up hungry. Bobby learns, absorbs, becomes intimate with this machine in ways that most pilots never achieve with their aircraft. He knows her weight distribution, knows which rivets bear the most stress, knows the exact fuel consumption curve at different power settings because he calculated it himself from Morrison's flight data. At night in his boarding house room, he writes letters to his mother, tells her about the work, about the airplane, about the promise that's getting closer to fulfillment. He doesn't tell her about the nightmares, about seeing Frank's P-47 spiral down every time he closes his eyes, about waking up in cold sweats convinced he heard the Western Union messenger knocking at his door. But across the Atlantic in the spring of 1944, another man is having his own nightmares. Wilhelm Hartmann, promoted now to Staffelkapitän squadron commander, sits in a requisition farmhouse that serves as their base operations. The walls are covered with maps marked in red, showing the shrinking territory they're defending. Outside mechanics work on FW-190 obas that are increasingly held together with salvaged parts and desperate ingenuity. Willie counts pilots. He had 18 men 3 months ago. Now he has 11. 2 killed last week, 3 shot down and captured the week before. 1 so badly injured that he'll never fly again, assuming the infection doesn't kill him first. The replacement pilots arriving are children. 19, 20 years old with 30 hours of flight time and eyes that haven't yet learned what real fear looks like. Hans, Willie's oldest friend in the squadron, sits across from him. They're drinking ersatz coffee that tastes like burnt grain and disappointment. Hans is 32. Ancient by current Luftwaffe standards. He has 63 victories and a Knight's Cross he never wears because it feels like showing off when so many better men are dead. Do you think we can still win? Willie, the question hangs in the air between them. Outside, an American bomber formation passes overhead, so high they're just contrails stitching across the blue. The anti-aircraft guns don't even fire. They're saving ammunition for targets they might actually hit. Willie doesn't answer right away. He's learned that silence is sometimes the only honest response. Finally, he looks at Hans. What do you think Hans stares into his coffee cup like he's reading fortunes in the grounds? I think we're buying time. I don't know what we're buying it for. I don't know if anyone knows. Then we fight to survive. We keep our boys alive as long as we can. And maybe when this ends, we'll have earned mercy. From who? From them. Willie gestures vaguely west. The Americans. I've watched how they fight. They're not savages. They could be with the numbers they have, but they're not. That means something. It's a dangerous thought for a German officer to have in 1944, and they both know it. But here in this farmhouse with just the two of them, and the sound of American bombers overhead, dangerous thoughts are the only honest ones left. Back in New York, Morrison is preparing for what will be his last flight before the accident. He doesn't know that yet. Neither does Bobby, who's watching from the observation area as Morrison runs through pre-flight checks on a stock P-47D they're using for some control surface testing. The flight goes wrong 12 minutes after takeoff. A hydraulic line fails. Morrison loses control authority. He fights it skilled enough to keep it mostly under control, experienced enough to know when to stop fighting. He brings it down hard in a field 3 miles from the airport. The landing gear collapses. The propeller digs into earth. The airplane cartwheels twice, comes to rest on its back. Bobby is in the first vehicle to reach the crash site. Morrison is alive, conscious, trapped in the inverted cockpit with fuel dripping around him. They get him out. Broken leg, broken ribs, concussion. He'll live, but he won't fly for months. At the hospital that evening, Morrison grabs Bobby's wrist with surprising strength for a man who's been heavily sedated. The Superbolt program can't wait for me. You know that airplane better than anyone except me. I'm not ready. Morrison's grip tightens. Frank wouldn't want you to be ready. He'd want you to fly anyway. Bobby sits with that for a long moment, then nods. 2 days later, Republic's program manager calls Bobby into his office. Bobby knows what's coming, can feel it in the air like electricity before a storm. Thatcher, we've reviewed your flight time, your technical knowledge, Morrison's recommendations. We're promoting you to primary test pilot for the XP-47J program. Sir, I only have 200 hours total time. The manager, a vice president named Harrison who flew bombers in the First War, leans back in his chair. Your brother had how many hours when he went to war? Bobby doesn't answer. These are desperate times. We need the Superbolt flying. We need data. We need to know if she can do what we think she can do. You're the best option we have right now. So I'm going to ask you what I asked your brother when he wanted to fly. What would Frank want you to do? Bobby looks at Frank's photo, which he's brought to every meeting, every interview, carrying it like a talisman. Frank's smiling in the picture, standing in front of his P-47, looking like a man who's found his purpose. He'd want me to fly. Then that's settled. You start tomorrow. First flight is basic envelope expansion. Nothing fancy. Just get a feel for her. Bobby walks out of that office knowing his life has fundamentally changed. He's not a factory worker anymore. Not even an assistant. He's a test pilot. The primary test pilot for the fastest airplane anyone's ever tried to build. And he's terrified. That night, he goes to the hangar alone, late after everyone else has gone home. The XP-47J sits there in the darkness, illuminated only by moonlight through the high windows. Bobby walks around her, slowly running his hand along the fuselage, the wings, the propeller blades. Don't kill me, girl. I'm doing this for Frank. The airplane doesn't answer, just sits there, patient, waiting, full of potential energy that Bobby will be responsible for converting into kinetic reality. May 1944. Bobby's first flight and as pilot in command. Dawn, because test flights always happen at dawn when the air is calmest, and if something goes wrong, you have a whole day to deal with it. The ground crew has the engine warmed up. Bobby does his walk around checking things he's checked 100 times before, but this time it's different because this time he's responsible. He climbs into the cockpit. The seat is still warm from the engine heat. He straps in 5-point harness, tight enough that he can barely breathe. Gloves on, helmet on. Oxygen mask hanging loose. For now, he'll need it when he goes high. His hands move through the checklist, automatically muscle memory from weeks of Morrison drilling him on every step. But when his hand touches the throttle, it's shaking. The crew chief, a sergeant named Martinez, who's been with the Superbolt program since the beginning, climbs up on the wing root, leans into the cockpit. Sir, you okay? Bobby looks at him. This is for Frank. Martinez nods like he understands, and maybe he does. Maybe everyone who works on these airplanes understands that they're all building for brothers and sons and fathers who didn't come home. Martinez pats the side of the cockpit twice. She's ready when you are, sir. Bobby takes a breath, advances the throttle. The engine catches with a roar that's different from a stock P-47, deeper, more visceral, like something alive and barely contained. The whole airframe shakes with it, 2,100 horsepower pushing against brakes in inertia and Bobby's own fear. Tower clears him for taxi. Bobby releases brakes, feels the aircraft roll forward. The tailwheel steering is sensitive. He overcorrects once catches it. The airplane weighs 1,000 pounds less than a stock Thunderbolt, and you can feel it in how she moves. Lighter, more responsive, more willing. At the runway, Bobby runs through the final checks. Magnetos, fuel mixture, trim, canopy locked. He looks down at Frank's photo tucked into a pocket of his flight suit. Then he keys the radio. Tower Superbolt 1 is ready. Cleared for takeoff, Superbolt. Winds light and variable. Good luck. Bobby advances the throttle smoothly. The acceleration pushes him back into the seat, faster than he expected. The runway centerline blurs. Tail comes up, airspeed alive. 60 knots, 80, 100. At 120, he eases back on the stick and the Superbolt lifts off like she's been waiting her whole existence for this moment. Gear up. The airplane jumps forward as the drag disappears. Bobby's climbing at 3,000 feet per minute without even trying. The altimeter unwinds. 2,000 feet, 4,000, 6,000. The air is smooth up here, silky, and the Superbolt carves through it like it's not even there. Bobby levels at 10,000 feet, takes a breath, keys the radio. Tower Superbolt 1 is established at Angels 10. Beginning envelope exploration. Copy Superbolt. All instruments show normal. Bobby starts easy, gentle turns. 45 degrees of bank. The airplane responds instantly. No lag, no hesitation. It's like thinking about turning and having it happen. He tries steeper banks, 60 degrees. The G-forces push him into the seat, but it's manageable. The airplane holds altitude perfectly. Now for speed. Bobby advances the throttle to full military power. Not war emergency yet. That's for later when they need it. But full military is still 2,100 horses, and the Superbolt accelerates like a dragster. 400 miles per hour, 420, 430. The vibration that was noted at 400 is still there, a slight buzz through the airframe, but nothing alarming. 450 miles per hour, faster than most P-47s have ever gone in level flight. The airplane is stable, solid, wanting more. Bobby can feel it in the controls. She's not even breathing hard. He glances at Frank's photo. This is it, brother. This is what you wanted. This is what we dreamed about when we were kids watching Barnstormers. For just a moment, Bobby lets himself feel joy. Pure, uncomplicated joy. He's flying. He's flying, the fastest fighter in the world. Frank's promise has come true. Then he throttles back, begins the descent back to base. The flight lasted 40 minutes. In that 40 minutes, Bobby Thatcher stopped being a factory worker playing at being a pilot and became something else, someone else. The man who would push the Superbolt to 505 miles per hour and change what people thought was possible. But he doesn't know that yet. Landing is smooth. Martinez and the ground crew are waiting, anxious, eager. Bobby shuts down, goes through the post-flight procedures, then climbs out. His legs are shaking, but not from fear, from adrenaline, from the realization that he just did something most people will never do. Martinez grabs his hand, shakes it hard. How's she fly, sir? Bobby searches for words. Finally settles on the only ones that matter. She wants to go faster. I can feel it. She's hungry. The chief engineer, who's been listening on the radio, approaches with a clipboard. We're going for 500 miles per hour, Thatcher. No Piston fighter has ever officially broken that barrier. You think she can do it? Bobby looks back at the Superbolt sitting there on the ramp engine, ticking as it cools, looking predatory even at rest. When do we start? While Bobby is learning to fly the fastest airplane in the world, Willie Hartman is learning how to keep young pilots alive long enough to matter. June 1944. The Allied invasion of Normandy has succeeded. German forces are being pushed back across France. Willie's squadron is tasked with impossible missions. Intercept American bomber formations. Provide cover for retreating ground forces. Engage Allied fighters that outnumber them 5 to 1 on good days, 10 to 1 on bad days. A young pilot named Werner, 20 years old, fresh from training, barely shaving, sits in the ready room before his first mission. His hands shake as he tries to light a cigarette. Willie watches him, remembers being that young. Once remembers thinking he was immortal because he was good and skill mattered more than luck. He knows better now. Willie sits next to Werner, offers his lighter. The kid takes it, manages to light the cigarette on the third try. Scared, Willie asks. Werner tries to look brave. Fails. Yes, Herr Major. Good. Fear keeps you alive. It's the ones who aren't scared who die first. They fly the mission. Werner survives, but 2 others don't. One of them had been in the squadron for 3 weeks, the other for 5 days. When they land, Werner vomits behind his aircraft. Willie lets him, doesn't say anything, just stands there keeping watch while the kid empties his stomach and maybe a little bit of his innocence. That evening, Willie writes another letter he won't send. This one is different, though. This one is addressed to someone specific. To the American pilot he'll never meet. The one who's building something on the other side of the ocean that will make all of this even more impossible than it already is. I don't know your name. I don't know if you're 1 man or 100, but I know you're there. I can feel it in how your fighters are getting faster, better, more numerous. You're building something that will overwhelm us, not through skill, but through sheer unstoppable capability. And here's what I want you to know. I respect it. I respect you. You fight clean. You don't torture prisoners. You don't machine gun parachutes. You could with the numbers you have, but you don't. When this is over, when you've won, because we both know you will win. I hope you remember that some of us fought with honor too, that we were professionals, not monsters. And maybe, if there's mercy in this world, you'll let us live to rebuild what this war has destroyed. He folds a letter, adds it to the others in his footlocker, wonders if anyone will ever read them, or if they'll burn with everything else when the end finally comes. Back in New York, Bobby is flying 3 times a week now. Each flight pushes a little further. 460 miles per hour, 470. Each time the Superbolt responds like she's been waiting for someone brave enough to ask. The engineers install modifications between flights. A new propeller blade design, adjustments to the cooling system, fine-tuning the exhaust outlets to maximize the thrust recovery. Each change is calculated to squeeze another mile per hour out of the package. Every mile per hour matters because somewhere in Europe, German fighters are still killing American pilots, and speed equals life equals mission, success equals boys going home. Bobby starts to feel confident, maybe too confident. In late June, during a high-speed run at 18,000 feet, the airplane hits some turbulence at 480 miles per hour. Not much, just a bump. But at that speed, a bump becomes violence. The nose pitches down 10 degrees before Bobby can catch it. The airframe shudders. A panel on the cowling cracks, peels back slightly in the airstream. Bobby fights it level. The panel holds but barely. He throttles back, descends, lands, his heart hammering. When they inspect the damage, they find stress cracks around 3 of the cowling attachment points. The airplane was asking for more speed than the structure was quite ready to give. That night, Bobby sits in his room, hands still shaking slightly. He came close today. Close to becoming a statistic, another test pilot killed pushing boundaries. Close to proving his mother's fears right that flying would take both her sons. He thinks about Frank, wonders if Frank felt this way before missions. This combination of fear and determination. This understanding that what you're doing is necessary but might kill you anyway. Bobby decides something that night. He decides that fear is acceptable. That being scared doesn't mean you're weak. It means you understand the stakes. And understanding the stakes means you will be careful when it matters. July 1944. The program manager approves installation of the final modifications. The new General Electric CH-5 turbo supercharger. The absolute best propeller Republic can design. Every system optimized to perfection. This is it. This is the configuration that will attempt 500 miles per hour. Bobby knows what's coming, can feel it building like a storm front. The record attempt, the flight that will either prove the Superbolt is everything they hoped or prove that Piston fighters have reached their absolute limit and can go no further. The engineers brief him on the plan: climb to 20,000 feet, level flight over this calibrated course, push to war, emergency power. See what happens. Bobby listens, takes notes, asks technical questions, but in his head, he's already flying the mission, already feeling the throttle under his hand, already seeing the airspeed needle climb past 500, already hearing Frank's voice. You can do this, little brother. This is what we promised each other. This is what you're meant to do. The date is set. August 5th, 1944. Weather permitting. Bobby will attempt to fly faster than any Piston fighter has ever flown. Will attempt to prove that American engineering can overcome physics through sheer determination and precision manufacturing. The night before, Bobby doesn't sleep, just lies in his bed staring at the ceiling, running through the procedures over and over. Thinking about Frank, thinking about Willie, though he doesn't know Willie's name yet, doesn't know he exists. Thinking about all the pilots who will fly faster, safer, better airplanes because of what the Superbolt program learns. Just before dawn, he gets up, walks to the hangar. The Superbolt is there waiting. Martinez is there too, doing a pre-flight, even though Bobby won't fly for another 4 hours. Couldn't sleep either, Bobby asks. Martinez looks up. This is history, sir. We're about to make history. Who sleeps before history? Bobby runs his hand along the cowling, feels the metal cold and smooth under his palm. You really think she can do it? Martinez straightens up, looks Bobby in the eye. Sir, I've built a lot of airplanes. This one's special. She wants to fly fast. She was built for it. Every rivet, every seam, every piece of her is perfect. So yeah, I think she can do it. Question is, can you? Bobby thinks about that, thinks about Frank, thinks about the promise two boys made to each other at a county fair in 1938. Thinks about all the pilots who've died in the years since, all the brothers who didn't come home, all the families with holes that will never be filled. I can do it. For Frank, for all of them, I can do it. And somewhere over Germany, Willie Hartman is flying another desperate mission, fighting another hopeless battle, keeping another group of young pilots alive for one more day. He doesn't know that in a few hours, an American pilot he's never met will fly faster than Willie has ever dreamed possible. Doesn't know that this moment, this achievement, will eventually save his life. Doesn't know that 23 years later, he'll stand in front of that airplane with the man who flew it and understand that they were never really enemies. Just two professionals on opposite sides of history, both trying to do the right thing in a world gone mad. But that's still years away. Right now, in this moment, Bobby Thatcher is walking toward the Superbolt. The sun is rising, the sky is clear, and history is waiting for him to climb into that cockpit and show the world what's possible when you build something better than anyone thought you could. The fastest fighter in the world, 505 miles per hour, and the beginning of a friendship that will prove mercy is stronger than victory. August 5th, 1944. Dawn breaks over Long Island with the kind of clarity that test pilots pray for. No clouds, no wind, air so still it looks like glass. Bobby Thatcher stands on the tarmac at Republic Aviation's flight test facility, staring at the XP-47J Superbolt like it's the first time he's ever seen it. But it's not wonder in his eyes anymore. It's something else. Determination mixed with fear, mixed with a sense of destiny that he can't quite shake. Martinez and the ground crew have been here since 3 in the morning, going over every inch of the airplane. Every bolt torqued, every connection checked, every system tested twice. The tower operator, a veteran who flew observation planes in the First War, watches through binoculars from his perch. He's seen a lot of test flights, seen airplanes do impossible things, and seen airplanes come apart in midair when they reach the limits of what physics would allow. Today feels different, though. Today feels like something's about to change. Bobby walks his pre-flight slower than usual, touching each surface, running his hands along the propeller blades, checking for nicks or damage, opening access panels to verify fuel and oil levels, even though he knows Martinez already checked them 3 times. It's ritual now, prayer disguised as procedure. He climbs onto the wing root. Martinez is there waiting. The crew chief looks tired, but his eyes are bright. This is what they've all been working toward. Every late night, every modification, every lesson learned from every previous flight, it all comes down to the next hour. "How you feeling, sir?" Bobby doesn't answer right away. He pulls Frank's photo from his flight suit pocket, looks at it in the early morning light. His brother smiling forever, 29 years old, forever standing in front of his P-47, forever believing that tomorrow would come. Bobby tucks the photo back into his pocket close to his heart. Scared. But Frank would be scared too. Difference is he'd fly anyway. Martinez nods, pats the side of the cockpit. She's ready. Smoothest engine run-up we've ever had. Everything's perfect. Bobby climbs into the cockpit. The seat fits him now like it was molded to his body. He's flown this airplane 23 times. Knows every quirk, every characteristic, every sound it makes. But today is different. Today they're asking it to do something no piston fighter has ever done. Today they're pushing past theory into the realm of the unknown. He straps in, 5-point harness pulled tight enough to restrict breathing. Gloves on, helmet on, oxygen mask hanging loose for now, but within easy reach. His hands move through the checklist, but his mind is somewhere else. In the past, at a county fair in Pennsylvania, standing next to Frank watching barnstormers making promises that seemed impossible then, but are about to become real now. Martinez leans into the cockpit one last time. "Sir, about 10 years ago, I watched my brother die in a factory accident. Machinery. He was trying to clear a jam and something slipped. I think about him every day. I think about how he'd want me to keep building, keep making things better, keep pushing forward. You understand what I'm saying?" Bobby looks at Martinez, really looks at him, sees the same grief he carries, the same determination to turn loss into something meaningful. "I understand. Then go make history, for both of them." Martinez drops off the wing. Bobby is alone now, just him and the machine and the ski and the promise. He takes a long breath, keys the radio. "Tower Superbolt 1 is ready. Superbolt 1 winds are calm. Altimeter 299er2. You are cleared to taxi. Runway 27. Good luck up there, Bobby." The use of his first name is against procedure, but Bobby appreciates it. This isn't just another test flight. Everyone knows it. Everyone understands what's at stake. Bobby advances the throttle. The R2800 engine catches with it that deep, visceral roar he's come to love. 2,100 horsepower at idle. The whole airframe vibrates with contained violence. He releases brakes and the Superbolt rolls forward, light on her wheels, eager. At the runway, Bobby runs through the final checks. Magnetos both checked. Fuel mixture rich. Trim set for takeoff. Canopy locked. He looks down at the pocket where Frank's photo sits. Then he advances the throttle to full power. The acceleration is brutal. The Superbolt weighs 1,000 pounds less than a stock P-47, and you feel every missing pound in how she leaps forward. The tail comes up almost immediately. Bobby keeps it tracking, straight, fighting the torque. The runway centerline a gray blur beneath him. 60 knots, 80, 100. At 115, he rotates, and the Superbolt doesn't just lift off. It jumps into the air like it's been caged and finally freed. Gear up. The airplane accelerates like it's falling uphill. Bobby's climbing at 4,000 feet per minute without even trying. The altimeter unwinds in a dizzy spiral. 5,000 feet, 10,000, 15,000. The air thins. The sky darkens from blue to deeper blue. At 20,000 feet, Bobby levels off, takes a breath. His heart is hammering, but his hands are steady on the controls. This is it. This is the moment. Everything they've built toward, every modification, every test flight, every lesson learned. It all comes down to the next 10 minutes. He flies a racetrack pattern over Long Island Sound, getting established on the calibrated course. The instrumentation on the ground will track his exact speed, verify what his instruments show, confirm or deny whether they've achieved the impossible. Bobby's mouth is dry. He wishes he'd brought water, but it's too late for that now. Tower Superbolt 1 is established over the course at Angels 20, beginning speed run. Copy Superbolt. All stations are tracking. Execute at your discretion. The world is watching. Bobby allows himself a tight smile. No pressure then. He takes one more breath, touches the pocket with Frank's photo. Then he pushes the throttle forward. past military power into the war emergency position. The position that says we need everything you've got, and we need it now, and we don't care if it destroys you because the mission is all that matters. The engine response is immediate and overwhelming. 2,800 horsepower unleashed all at once. The Superbolt doesn't accelerate so much as it detonates forward. Bobby is pressed back into his seat. The airspeed needle starts climbing. 400 miles per hour, 420, 440. The airplane is rock solid, tracking straight and level. No vibration, no buffet, just pure forward momentum. 460 miles per hour. Bobby's vision is starting to narrow from the G-forces. His breathing is labored through the oxygen mask. The altimeter is unwinding slightly. He's losing maybe 50 feet of altitude from the sheer speed, but that's acceptable. That's within parameters. 480 miles per hour, faster than any P-47 has ever flown, faster than most fighters of any type have ever flown. But they're not done yet. The needle keeps climbing. The engine note is screaming now, a sound like nothing Bobby has ever heard, like the airplane itself is alive and howling its triumph. 490, 495. The airframe starts to shake. Not vibration exactly, something deeper. The whole structure resonating with the forces being applied to it. Bobby's hands tighten on the stick. Keeps it level. Keeps it straight. Come on, girl. Just a little more. Just 5 more miles per hour. Just show me 505. The needle touches 500. Hesitates. Then climbs past it. 502. 504. 505. Bobby's voice cracks when he keys the radio. Tower, I'm showing 505, repeat 505 miles per hour. 3 seconds of silence. Then the tower operator's voice shaking slightly. Superbolt 1, we confirm. Ground tracking shows 505 miles per hour. Congratulations, Bobby. You just made history. Bobby throttles back. The deceleration is almost as violent as the acceleration was. The engine note drops from scream to roar to rumble. His vision widens. His breathing eases. He's still at 19,000 feet still over Long Island Sound, but something fundamental has changed. He did it. They did it. The Superbolt hit 505 miles per hour, the fastest piston fighter ever flown. Proof that American engineering could overcome any limitation if you just pushed hard enough and believed strongly enough, in both ways, built precisely enough. For Frank, Bobby whispers to himself, "This one's yours, brother." The descent back to base takes 15 minutes. Bobby flies it in a daze, going through the motions automatically while his mind tries to process what just happened. When he touches down, the landing is smooth as silk, the airplane settling onto the runway, like it's grateful to be done proving things for one day. Bobby taxis to the ramp. There's a crowd waiting. Martinez and his ground crew, the engineers, the program manager, even some factory workers who heard the radio calls and came running. When Bobby shuts down the engine and opens the canopy, the sound that greets him is pure joy. Cheering, applause. People who've given everything to this program, seeing their work validated in the most dramatic way possible. Martinez is the first one to the aircraft. Bobby climbs down on shaking legs, and Martinez grabs him in a bear hug that lifts him off his feet. "Year 12-5, you magnificent son of a gun, you did it." The program manager pushes through the crowd, grinning wider than Bobby has ever seen him grin. "Thatcher, you just flew faster than any fighter in history. How's it feel?" Bobby looks around at all these faces. People who believed in this impossible machine. People who worked 18-hour days to make it perfect. People who understood that every rivet mattered because lives depended on precision. And he realizes something. This isn't his victory alone. This is all of them. Everyone who touched this airplane, everyone who believed it was possible. It feels like we kept a promise. That afternoon, they pour champagne in the hangar. Someone takes photographs. Bobby standing next to the Superbolt, exhausted, but smiling, the airplane behind him, looking predatory and proud. These photos will end up in aviation magazines, in history books, in museums decades later. Proof that on August 5th, 1944, humans pushed a piston engine fighter to 505 miles per hour, and it didn't come apart. Bobby calls his mother that evening from the factory office, tells her he did something important today, tells her Frank would be proud. She cries on the phone and Bobby pretends not to notice, pretends his own eyes aren't wet. But 3 days later, reality arrives with teeth. Bobby attempts to replicate the flight. Same altitude, same conditions, same procedure. He pushes to war emergency power over the calibrated course. The Superbolt accelerates beautifully. 480, 490, 498. The needle touches 500 peaks at 501, won't climb any higher. Bobby tries again, gets 500 flat, tries a third time, 499. In the hangar that evening, the engineers gather around the data logs trying to understand. The conditions were identical, the procedure was identical, but the speed isn't replicating. Bobby stands to the side, feeling something cold settle in his stomach. Was it real? Did I imagine it? Were the instruments wrong? The chief engineer, a man named Peterson, who's been designing fighters since before Bobby was born, looks up from the data sheets. Your eyes don't lie, Thatcher. Something was perfect that day. Maybe it was air density. Maybe it was temperature. Maybe it was a combination of 100 factors that all aligned for one perfect moment. But you hit 505. The ground tracking confirmed it. That's not your imagination. That's history. But we can't repeat it. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But that doesn't make it less real. That makes it more important. Because you showed us what's possible. You showed us the absolute ceiling of what this airframe and this engine can achieve under perfect conditions. That matters. Bobby wants to believe that. Wants to accept that one perfect moment is enough. But doubt has crept in now. And doubt is hard to dislodge once it finds purchase. The program continues. More test flights, more data collection. Bobby flies the Superbolt another dozen times over the next 2 weeks, pushing her hard, but never quite reaching that magic number again. 490 becomes the reliable ceiling. 500 on a good day, but 505 remains elusive, a peak touched once and never regained. And then on August 18th, everything falls apart. Bobby is attempting another high-speed run. The routine has become familiar now. Climb to 20,000. Stabilize. Push to war, emergency power. See what happens. He's done this so many times it's almost boring, almost. At 497 miles per hour, there's a sound, not loud, just wrong. A pop like a firecracker going off inside the engine. Then smoke. Not a lot at first, just a wisp curling back from the cowling. But Bobby has seen enough engine fires to know what comes next. The fire warning light illuminates red on the panel. Bobby's training takes over. Throttle to idle, mixture to cut off, fuel selector to off. Kill the engine before it kills you. The propeller windmills for a few seconds, then stops. Suddenly, the Superbolt isn't the fastest fighter in the world anymore. It's 8,000 pounds of metal gliding toward the ground from 20,000 feet with a dead engine and smoke in the cockpit. Tower Superbolt 1. Engine fire. Shutting down. Declaring emergency. The tower operator's voice is steady, but Bobby can hear the tension underneath. Copy Superbolt. Fire equipment is rolling. Winds are calm. You're cleared for straight in approach, runway 27. Bobby goes through the procedures for dead stick landing. Trim for best glide. Pick your landing spot and commit. Don't try to stretch the glide because you'll just stall and die. Accept that you're going to land short and hard, and your job is to make it survivable. The smoke is getting thicker. Bobby's eyes are watering. He cracks the canopy open slightly, lets the slipstream pull some of the smoke out. The airport is ahead now, maybe 5 miles, and Bobby is doing math in his head. Altitude versus distance versus glide ratio. It's going to be close. At 2,000 feet, Bobby realizes he's not going to make the runway. He's going to land in the grass field short of the airport, and at the speed he'll be carrying, that's going to be violent. He tightens his harness one more notch, prepares for impact. The Superbolt crosses the airport boundary at 300 feet in 120 miles per hour. Too fast, too low. But it's what Bobby has, and he's committed now. He drops the gear at the last possible second, doesn't even wait to confirm. All 3 lights are green, just needs the drag and needs the wheels for rollout, assuming they hold. The main gear touches grass. The airplane bounces, settles, bounces again. Bobby fights at level. The tail wheel comes down. The brakes are useless in grass. Bobby just holds it straight and lets momentum bleed off. 100 miles per hour, 80, 60, 40, 20, stop. The fire trucks arrive 30 seconds later, cover the engine in foam. Bobby sits in the cockpit, hands still on the controls, breathing hard through the oxygen mask he forgot to remove. Martinez appears at the side of the cockpit, face white. Jesus Christ, Thatcher. You okay? Bobby nods. Can't speak yet. His legs are shaking too hard. Martinez helps him out of the cockpit. Bobby's knees buckle when his feet hit the ground. Martinez catches him, holds him up. The Superbolt sits there behind them, smoking wounded proof that even the fastest airplane in the world can be brought down by a failed exhaust manifold. That night, Bobby can't sleep. Every time he closes his eyes, he sees the fire warning light. Hears the pop of the manifold failing. Feels the sickening realization that he might not make the runway. He gave up trying to sleep around 3 in the morning, got dressed, walked to the hangar. The Superbolt is there, surrounded by engineers with flashlights and notebooks, taking the engine apart to see what failed and why. Bobby watches from the shadows, listens to them talk about metal fatigue, thermal stress, the price of pushing an engine to 2,800 horsepower when it was designed for 2,100. The chief engineer notices Bobby standing there. Can't sleep either. Bobby shakes his head. How bad is it? Peterson wipes his hands on a rag, walks over. The exhaust manifold failed catastrophically, cracked through completely. At the temperatures and pressures we're running, it's not surprising. But here's the thing. We've only got about 10 hours of flight time on this engine. 10 hours and it's already showing catastrophic wear. The cylinder walls are scored, the rings are shot. We'd need to replace the entire engine to keep flying. 10 hours. 10 hours. This airplane is incredible, Bobby. It's the fastest thing ever built. But it's eating itself alive. At these power levels, at these speeds, the components just can't last. We can replace the engine, sure, but it'll last another 10 hours, and then we'll be right back here. Bobby looks at the Superbolt, this machine they've poured their souls into, this weapon that was supposed to change everything. And he understands something profound. Speed has a cost. There's always a cost. 3 days later, Bobby sits in the office of Republic's vice president, a man named Harrison, who's made a career of hard decisions. The second prototype is supposed to start construction next month. The one with the contra-rotating propeller system that's supposed to solve all the remaining issues and make the Superbolt production ready. Harrison lays it out plainly. Pratt & Whitney is having problems with the contra-rotating propeller. Delays stacking on delays. And even if they solve it, the production analysis shows that only 30% of the XP-47J's parts are common with the P-47D. Switching production would require massive retooling at exactly the time when we need every P-47 we can build. What are our options? Harrison lights a cigarette, offers one to Bobby. Bobby takes it even though he doesn't normally smoke. Cancel the second prototype. Pour resources into the XP-72 Ultrabolt instead. Bigger engine, cleaner sheet design. Everything we learned from the J model applied to an airframe that doesn't have to compromise with existing production. Bobby thinks about this, thinks about Frank, thinks about the promise he made to build airplanes fast enough to end the war, thinks about the young pilots who are dying every day in Europe and the Pacific while they chase performance numbers that might not matter by the time they achieve them. You're asking me what I think. You flew her to 505. You nearly died when she broke. You know this airplane better than anyone. Is she worth it? Is she worth retooling production and delaying the fighters? We know work for a chance at something faster, but more fragile. Bobby looks at Frank's photo on Harrison's desk, the one Bobby brought to every meeting. His brother forever young, forever believing that tomorrow matters. And Bobby realizes what Frank would say. What Frank would want. Cancel it. Cancel the second prototype. Put the money into production fighters and the 72. The Superbolt is incredible. She's the fastest thing that's ever flown. But she'll kill more test pilots in development than she'll save combat pilots in service. My brother died so others could live. This airplane, as amazing as she is, doesn't serve that mission. Harrison studies Bobby for a long moment. That's hard wisdom, son. Wisdom that cost you something to learn. It cost Frank everything to teach me. And that's how the XP-47J Superbolt program ends. Not with a bang, but with a rational decision made by a man who loved the airplane but loved the mission more. The second prototype is canceled. The resources flow to the P-47M, a production fighter incorporating Superbolt lessons but built for reliability over absolute performance. And the XP-72, which will itself be canceled when jets make Piston fighters obsolete before it can reach service. But across the Atlantic, where Bobby's decision will eventually save a German pilot's life in ways no one could predict, Willie Hartman is learning his own lessons about mercy and survival. September 1944. Willie's squadron is down to 8 operational pilots. They're flying 4, sometimes 5 missions a day. Defensive intercepts against impossible odds. Willie knows the mathematics. Germany has already lost. It's just a question of how long it takes and how many die before everyone admits the obvious. On September 23rd, Willie encounters an American fighter unlike anything he's fought before. Faster P-47 than he's seen. It cuts off his attack on a bomber formation with a speed advantage that should be impossible. Willie tries to engage, realizes quickly it's pointless, breaks off. The American pilot could pursue, could shoot Willie down easily. Instead, the P-47 wags its wings and climbs away. Willie lands shaking. His wingman lands beside him, equally rattled. That wasn't a standard Thunderbolt, the wingman says. Willie knows that the Americans have done something to their fighters. Made them faster, made them better. Applied engineering and precision and unlimited resources to create weapons that no longer need to fight fair because they're simply superior in every measurable way. That night, Willie writes another letter he won't send. This one's shorter than the others. Just one question. When this is over, will you remember that some of us were simply doing our duty? Will there be mercy for professionals who fought with honor on the wrong side of history? He doesn't know the answer. Won't know for 23 more years. Won't know until he stands in front of a silver Thunderbolt at an American air show and meets the man who helped build the weapon that won by existing, not by firing. But that's still years away. Right now, Bobby Thatcher walks out of Harrison's office, having just killed the fastest airplane ever built, having made the hardest decision of his life, knowing it was right but feeling like he's betrayed something sacred. He goes to the hangar one last time. The Superbolt sits there, engine removed, looking incomplete, like a predator with his teeth pulled. Bobby puts his hand on the fuselage, feels the cold metal under his palm. You were incredible. You were perfect. But perfect isn't always what we need. He turns away, walks out, doesn't look back. Because looking back would hurt too much and there's still work to do. Still a war to win. Still promises to keep. Even if keeping them means letting go of the fastest airplane in the world. Even if it means accepting that sometimes mercy matters more than victory. And sometimes building a weapon so powerful that it never fires is the greatest achievement of all.